Book 7, The Secret King, a manual of alchemical living. Introduction. The art of hiding. The prince was no longer just a man who had woken up. He was a force of nature wearing a human suit. He walked through the world, but he did not touch it in the same way. He knew the secret. To touch is to change. But he also learned a more dangerous secret. To grab is to kill. This is the story of how the prince learned to hold the world without freezing it. Chapter 1. The Garden of Stone. Anybody was walking through the grey wasteland. He was thirsty, he was hungry. Suddenly he smelled something impossible. Perfume. He followed the scent over a ridge of jagged rocks. Below him was a garden. The colors were too bright. The reds hummed. The greens vibrated. In the center stood a tree with silver bark and fruit that pulsed like beating hearts. Finally, anybody whispered, "Something for me." He ran down the slope. He knelt by a stream of crystal water. He cupped his hands to scoop it up. Snap. The moment the water entered his cupped hands, it froze. It didn't turn to ice. It turned to solid diamond, hard, dry, useless. He couldn't drink it. He threw the diamond on the ground. He stood up and walked to a rosebush. The flower was velvet and soft. "I will take this," he thought. He grabbed the stem. Crunch. The rose turned to ruby. The petals became sharp glass. The scent vanished. "I am cursed," anybody cried. "Everything I touch dies." "No," said a voice from the silver tree. "Everything you touch lives, everything you grab dies." A serpent uncoiled from the branches. It had eyes like emeralds. "You are a King Midas of misery," hissed the snake. "You think you are picking flowers, but you are arresting them." "I just want to hold them," shouted anybody. "To hold is to stop," said the snake. "Life is movement. When you grab the water, you stop the flow. Water that does not flow is ice. Life that does not flow is stone. So I can never have anything?" anybody asked, his heart breaking. "I must starve in paradise." "You can have everything," said the snake, "but you cannot keep it. Open your mouth." Anybody opened his mouth. "Lean down to the stream," said the snake. "Do not use your hands, do not try to catch the water, just let the river run through you." Anybody lay on the bank. He lowered his face. He let the water rush into his mouth. It didn't freeze, it was cool, sweet and living. It flowed through him. "Now the fruit," said the snake. Anybody stood up. He didn't grab the apple. He opened his hand and let the apple fall into it. He didn't close his fingers. He let the fruit rest there, heavy and warm. It stayed soft. He took a bite. It tasted like sunlight and sugar. "You see," said the snake, "the world belongs to you, prince. But only as long as you treat it like a guest. The moment you treat it like a prisoner, it turns into a statue." Chapter 2. The Kitchen of the Night. Anybody walked until he smelled smoke, but it wasn't wood smoke. It smelled like burning hair and old memories. He found a crooked hut made of black ribs. He knocked. The door opened. An old woman stood there. Her skin was the color of a bruise. She wore a necklace of teeth. "You're late," she snapped. "The soup is almost ruined." She dragged him inside. In the center was a cauldron bubbling with black tar. "I am the cook," she said, "and I am missing the main ingredients." She handed him a knife. "Cut them off." "Cut what off?" "Your grief," she said. "It's hanging off your shoulder like rotting meat. Cut it off and throw it in the pot." Anybody looked at his shoulder. He felt the heavy, cold weight of his sadness. He sliced the air. He felt a rip. A heavy lump of shadow fell into the pot. Splash. The soup hissed and turned green. "Now the anger," she said. "It's souring your blood." Anybody sliced his belly. A red, burning knot of rage fell into the cauldron. Sizzle. "Now the shame," she whispered. "That is the spice." Anybody sliced his face. The sticky mask of shame peeled off and dropped in. The soup bubbled. It smelled terrible, like a burning hospital. "It is ready," said the cook. She poured a bowl. "Eat." "I can't," anybody gagged. "It is poison. It is made of my pain." "If you leave it inside you, it is poison," said the cook. "But if you cook it, it is medicine. Eat your own darkness, prince, or it will eat you." Anybody drank the sludge. He expected to die, but the grief tasted like plums. The anger tasted like chili peppers, hot and energizing. The shame tasted like salt, grounding and real. The heat of the soup rushed through him. He felt strong. He felt dangerous. He felt alive. He realized that negative emotion was just energy trapped in a bad story. Once the story was cooked off, the energy was pure fuel. Chapter 3. The red lake anybody walked on, full of fire. He came to the edge of a vast lake. The water was thick, warm, and red. It smelled of iron. It was the lake of blood. Standing on the shore was a boatman, but the boatman had no skin. He was raw muscle and white bone. He was terrifying. "I need to cross," said anybody. "You are too heavy," said the boatman. His voice vibrated from his exposed throat. "You are wearing a suit of skin. You cannot enter the red lake wrapped in plastic. So I cannot cross." "You can cross," said the boatman, "but you must leave the wrapper here." The boatman reached out a hand of bone and gristle. "May I?" Anybody trembled. The itch under his skin was screaming, "Do it." The boatman pinched a loose seam at the back of anybody's neck. He pulled. Zzzzzip. It felt like tearing off a bandage that had been on for 1,000,000 years. The old skin, the scars, the wrinkles, the fingerprints slid off like a wet raincoat. Anybody stood on the red sand. He was raw, he was glistening. The air touched his nerves directly. The wind felt like sandpaper. The sun felt like a hammer. "I am dying," anybody screamed. "I am too open, the world is hurting me." "The world is not hurting you," said the boatman. "The world is kissing you. You just aren't used to the tongue. Get in the water." Anybody stepped into the red lake. The salt of the blood hit his raw nerves. He braced for the scream, but the scream didn't come because there was no skin to separate him from the lake. The moment the red water touched his red muscle, the boundary vanished. He didn't feel the water. He became the water. He floated, not as a man swimming, but as a drop of blood returning to the heart. He realized that vulnerability wasn't weakness. It was the only way to touch the world without gloves. Chapter 4, The Door of the White Wind. Anybody crossed the lake and stood on the edge of the world. There was a cliff, beyond it swirling white fog. Behind him he heard footsteps. Heavy, slow, thump, thump. He turned. A figure in a black cloak stood there holding a scythe. "I am the end," said the figure. "I have come to collect." "I am not ready," anybody cried. "I haven't finished." "There is one way," said the end, "but you will not like it." "What?" "Stop holding your breath." Anybody realized he had been holding his breath since birth. He was keeping his chest tight, trying to keep his life inside. "If I exhale," he said, "I will lose everything." "Exhale," commanded the end. Anybody looked at the scythe. He had no choice. He closed his eyes. He let go of the tension in his shoulders. He let go of the knot in his belly. He opened his mouth and let out the great exhale. Hara, he breathed out his name. He breathed out his story. He breathed out the prince. And as the last ounce of air left him, the end lowered the scythe. The figure pulled back its hood. It wasn't a skeleton, it was a midwife. She had kind eyes and strong hands. "Good push," she smiled. She gave him a gentle shove. Anybody fell off the cliff. He plunged into the white fog. He screamed, waiting for the impact. But he didn't fall down, he fell out. He realized the fog wasn't empty. It was solid light. He wasn't falling. He was floating. He looked back at the cliff. He saw his body standing there, frozen and small. Poor thing, anybody thought. It was so heavy. He turned toward the white wind. He didn't have lungs, but he was breathing. He was breathing the galaxy. He wasn't dead. He had just hatched. Chapter 5, The Shop of Masks. Anybody woke up. He was back in the city. He walked through the market. He was invisible. He was the wind. He stopped at a small shop. The Tailor of Souls. The old tailor looked up. "I need a suit," said anybody. "I have the emperor's new clothes," said the tailor. "Flashy." "No, I have the monk's robe." "No, what do you want?" "I want the suit of the ordinary man," the tailor gasped. "That is the most expensive suit I have, because it has no pockets for the ego. It is transparent. If you wear it, no one will know you are a king. They will push you in line. Are you strong enough to be that small?" "Measure me," said anybody. The tailor measured the distance between anybody's thoughts, 0. He stitched the fabric of normalcy over the blinding light of the prince. Anybody put on the suit. The glow faded. He looked like a man who waited for the bus. He looked like a father. "How does it feel?" asked the tailor. Anybody took a breath. He felt the rough fabric. He felt the anonymity wrapping around him like a warm blanket. "It fits," said anybody. "It feels like freedom." He walked out into the market. A merchant bumped into him. "Watch it, fool." Anybody didn't strike him with lightning. He didn't lecture him on the void. He smiled. "I'm sorry," said anybody. And he walked on, the secret king of the world, hiding in plain sight, whistling a tune that only the dogs and the madmen could hear.